Hello participants, welcome to lecture 3 of module 5, which is going to deeply delve into the technicalities of preparing contract account, contractees account and balance sheet by considering all those technicalities which are prescribed in the cost accounting standard in general. When we are talking about the preparation of contract account, we are there to follow the double entry principle, which is used in classical accounting, and by preparing a contract ledger, we are there to see to all those items which are to be debited to contract accounts, which are to be credited to contract account by using the double entry principle. So, we all know that when we are talking about double entry principle here in contract account, we are there to mostly deal with different expenses incurred by a contractor and different machines and equipments used in the site. So, the left hand side of the contract account is going to deal with all those items which are more or less expenses, and that will be debited as per the double entry principle, and similarly the right hand side is going to deal with the opposite items, anything which is returned back and all those things will be credited in the contract account. Now, to start with, a contract account is prepared to ascertain the cost incurred and the profit or loss on each individual contract. Since each contract is treated as separate cost unit, a separate contract account is opened for every contract, and as I said, it is spanning over a long time. So, there may be the prevalence of the preparation of contract account for 5 years or for 6 years, depending upon the contract life or the period of contract. So, for each and every contract, at the end of the financial year, we are there to wind it up, then we will again open it and we will do it in a repeated process till the completion of the contract. And the very essence of preparing a contract account is backed by the objective of finding the cost of the contract and estimating the profit at different stages, so that the payment can be made by the contractee to the contractor in order to facilitate the work. Moving further, when you are talking about contract account, here I have prepared an exemplary orientation of the contract account, because the number of items that are to be finding a place in the contract account depends on the details provided. So, here I have taken some of the most commonly items which are shown in the debit side of the contract account and on the credit side of contract account. To start with, here material issued, wages, direct expenses, these all essentially based on the double entry system of principle, because here you are coming across it is the debit side. So, debit as per the double entry system, debit all expenses and losses, credit all incomes and gains. So, following that particular principle, we are there to show all the expenses over here, and here it reflects the credit side, that is materials at site. This is shown in the credit side, because here materials issued, it may so happen that let us say for example, in a construction site 100 bags of cement have been issued to construction site 1, but at the end of the financial year it was found that out of those 100 bags 10 bags have been returned to the store. So, when we have issued 100 bags, we have charged and we have shown it over here in the debit side. But if 10 bags have been returned, our expenses should be adjusted by that, because that is not expended. So, it has to be shown on the opposite side to adjust this particular figure. So, that is the treatment. Similarly, over here the plant purchased or hired, we are showing, we are charging the whole of the amount on the debit side, and on the contrary we are showing plant at site. So, if we have purchased a plant worth 10 lakhs of rupees and we have shown it on the debit side, at the end of the financial year we ascertained the value of that particular plant at site and we came to know that it is 9 lakhs of rupees. So, we are showing it on the opposite side, because in the double entry system while we are preparing ledger, if we are there to reduce the item of expenses, we are there to show it on the opposite side. There is another way of treating this plant. Instead of showing the purchase price and showing the depreciated value over here, as I said in my example, the purchase price is 10 lakh and the depreciated value is 9 lakh, we can directly show 2 depreciation 1 lakh of rupees. So, that will also solve the purpose, but here this is most frequently practiced. And there comes work in progress account, where we are there to show work certified and work uncertified, what we have already discussed in the previous lecture. Moving further, transfer of profit. After the preparation of the contract account, we have ascertained the notional profit, like over here. Let me make a mention here. This is the notional profit. Notional profit means it is not actual profit, it is just calculated by considering all those expenses and the claims. Now, out of this notional profit, a portion of the same is to be transferred to PL account, and in the previous lecture we discussed about the guidelines prescribed by the Institute of Cost Accountants of India with regard to profit recognition. So, by using that, we are there to transfer the profit, we are there to transfer first the notional profit on the credit side of this, and then we are there to go for the transfer of profit to the profit and loss account based on that formula, and the rest will be treated as reserve, that is called WIP, work in progress reserve. Moving further, when we are going to talk about in detail the items to be debited to contract account, here these are the glossary of items which are to be shown on the debit side of the contract account. Similarly, these are the items which are to be shown on the credit side of the contract account, and here there are certain typical items like when you are going to talk about sale of scrap, when you are going to talk about work certified, many times the work certified is not directly given in the information, we are there to calculate it indirectly from the given information. Say for example, it is written work certified is 80% of cash received. So, cash received is given, work certified is not given, contract price is given, work certified is not given, cash received is given, and it is written 80% of cash received is work certified. So, you are there to extract some of the information which are not directly available in the question or in the information. So, in the credit side there is the prevalence of this, then escalation claim receivable. If there is the escalation clause which accommodates the fluctuations or changes in the prices of different resources, we are there to also make a mention of the claim against that escalation clause, simply implying the receivable against the price fluctuations, that is it. Then move further, work in progress. This is one of the fundamental technical aspect of the contract costing method. Work in progress in contract costing refers to the value of work completed on a contract up to a particular date that has not yet been fully completed or transferred to the completed contract account. So, when we are going to talk about the quantum of work done, that represents the work in progress, because the work is yet to be completed, it is still going on. So, that is why technically we call it work in progress, refers to the value of work completed on a contract up to a particular date. Normally it is the end of the financial year or accounting year, that has not yet been fully completed or transferred to the completed contract account. Clear? Now, it represents the unfinished portion of the long term contract at the end of the accounting period. So, some work has already been done and certified, but some work needs to be done. So, that unfinished portion represents the WIP. Since contract work generally extends over several accounting period, it is necessary to determine the value of work completed and the amount of profit to be recognized before contract is fully completed. Because as I said, one of the fundamental feature of contract costing method is that there is the release of payments in different stages, which is conditional upon the work certified, the work quantum of work completed and so on and so forth. So, for that purpose, if a work is not fully complete, technically it is work in progress, but we are there to ascertain profit, we are there to show it in the financial statement of the contractor, because the contractor is generating profit every year by executing and performing works up till the accounting year end or the end of financial year. So, that is why work in progress and its calculation represents the technical aspects of contract costing method. Here the components of work in WIP, there are two: work certified and work uncertified. Work certified, already in previous lecture I have discussed that it represents that portion of work which is certified by a competent authority or a professional out of the total work done by the contractor as the contractor is claiming. And I had already told that it may so happen that the contractor is claiming that work worth 50 lakhs have been completed, but when the architect or the competent authorities are appraising it, they are finding and they are certifying that no, work worth 40 lakhs have been completed. So, that is the concept of work certified. So, here work that has been completed, inspected and certified by the contractee's architect, engineer or supervisor, because it must be a person nominated by the contractee, because contractee is always going to claim if that particular person is going to be appointed by the contractor, then there is no meaning of it. So, it is from the side of the contractee, owing to the simple reason that on the basis of that certified work, the contractee is going to make part payment to the contractor. So, that is why it must be from the contractee side and the work has to be inspected and accordingly it is expected to be rationally certified. Then there comes the contractee makes payment based on the value of work certified. As I said, for making the part payment, the contractee is relying on that work certified by the competent authority, and based on that, after keeping a reserve amount, so called retention money, the contractee releases the payment. Then there comes work uncertified. It represents that quantum of work which is claimed to be done by the contractor, but not certified by the competent authority or the professionals who are appointed to do so, and that is to be shown, and no profit is to be recognized on that, because it is valued at cost only, because no profit is recognized on uncertified work. The profit can only be recognized on the work certified by the architect or engineer or supervisor. So, all the profit and loss calculations would be related to the quantum of work certified, not to the quantum of work uncertified. Then there comes the cost plus contract. When we are going to talk about cost plus contract, as I said, a cost plus contract is a type of contract in which the buyer agrees to reimburse the contractor for all allowable project cost plus an additional fee or profit. So, at the time of entering into the contract, the contractee is agreeing upon the fact that over and above the contract price, this amount will be paid. That is why it is called cost plus contract. Formula: total payment is equal to actual cost plus contractor's fee and so on and so forth. Then there comes the escalation clause. also called a price variation clause, because when we are talking about such a long span of time and the fluctuations in the prices of different resources that are going to be consumed, obviously the contractor has to be compensated for that, because it is not the fault of the contractor. So, that is why if there is the prevalence of an escalation clause, essentially as I told before, it is a safeguard on the part of the contractor against the price fluctuations, which is unfavorable. Now, if it is there, then the contractor is better off so far as the fluctuations in the prices are concerned. There are different objectives, like protect the contractor from unexpected increase in cost, protect the contractee from unjustified price increases, ensure fair sharing of the impact of inflation or deflation. We all know the price rise is because of inflationary pressure in the economy. So, that has to be shared, because neither the contractor is to be blamed nor the contractor, because they are not a party to that prevalence of inflation in the economy. So, if there prevails inflation and as a consequence the prices are moving in unfavorable direction, then it should be shared by both the parties to the contract, and accordingly that is going to be governed by the escalation clause. If it is written that with all the price fluctuations 60% is going to be borne by the contractor and 40% is going to be borne by the contractor, it is okay. So, as per the terms and conditions of that escalation clause, the price fluctuations is to be dealt with. I hope with these technical inputs with regard to the preparation of contract account, now you will be ready to go for the numerical questions on contract costing as well the job costing and batch costing. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your patient hearing.